All right, listen up. We're having another Bible toolbox talk. Are you paying attention? I hope you're all paying attention out there. Today we're talking about Daniel, chapter 8. And there's a lot going on here. Daniel has some remarkable dreams. Right now he's in the third year of Belshazzar. Belshazzar, if you remember, is the king that was in place when Daniel interpreted the writing on the wall, which actually happens about 12 to 15 years after this dream happens. This is his second dream. Chapter 7, he had another dream in the first year of Belshazzar. The first 4 chapters of this book was about Nebuchadnezzar and some of his dreams and some of his prophetic pictures, which tie into the rest of Daniel's dreams. Daniel dreams he sees 2 horns on a ram, and one horn is higher than the other. And then he sees a he-goat with a horn between his eyes. And then from that horn it breaks off, and 4 horns break out after that. And then he sees a little horn. What's going on here? This is all like Chinese stuff. We don't understand this stuff. We can't understand this. Well, you got to read, and you got to keep reading and go back and forth and put things together. Gabriel comes along and explains this dream to Daniel. Gabriel explains that the horns, the 2 horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. They're coming after Belshazzar. We know because in the previous chapter when Daniel got thrown into the lion's den, that was Darius the Mede. So we know the Medes and the Persians are coming up to rule. But we're lucky enough to see history. This guy was seeing it before he happened. He was writing history before he happened. Isn't that amazing? God's showing us how the history books are being written before history takes place. It's another proof of who's in charge. God's in charge. We're not in charge. So what happens here is the 2 horns, like I said, are the kings of Medes and Persians. And then the he-goat. Who do you think the he-goat is? The he-goat is Alexander the Great. Alexander's not coming on the scene for several hundred more years. But when he comes quickly and swiftly, takes over everything, brings his culture with him. The Greek language is all throughout this area now. Because of Alexander, all the peoples now are trying to speak under one language so they could do commerce and business, and of course, after the wars are over, commerce and business and get along with each other. And believe it or not, Greek is becoming the language of the time. Like English now is the business language around the world, Greek was the business language in that area over there. So maybe Alexander had a purpose from God in conquering all that area, bringing the language over. We know that the Septuagint was translated into Greek about 100 years before Alexander came, and maybe 200 years after Daniel was there. So the Septuagint is the Old Testament translated into Greek. Now who's going to read it unless all these people learn Greek? So now all these Greek languages coming over, now they have the Septuagint, they could read this. We don't think about these things. Well, I think about these things, but we don't think about these things in common. How does this happen? God's moving us around like little chess pieces on a board. I tell you, this is amazing. So now, the 4 horns that come out of the little horn are Alexander's 4 generals that take over. And we know this from history. And then we know that the little horn, there's another little horn there that we talked about, that Daniel talked about, which is a picture of a transgression of desolation. The transgression of desolations is something that's talked about over and over again. They have several desolations they talk about in that time. Antiochus Epiphanes was considered the transgressor because he came in and he desecrated the temple. Now the temple is a very big thing in the Jewish community all these years. Forever they talk about the temple, the temple, the temple. Goes back to Moses. We had the temple when we were walking around in the tents. Daniel started the temple. He bought the land. Solomon built the temple. The people didn't obey, so they got sent away from their temple. Nebuchadnezzar sacked the temple, took all the stuff out of it. He didn't destroy it. Left it in ruins, but he didn't destroy it. Now the people are exiled for 70 years. That's why Daniel's in Babylon. Jeremiah talks about the exile. The exile's almost over. These people are going to go back. Nehemiah is going to build the wall. Then there's going to be some other people going to come in and build the temple. And we're going to reinstitute the temple sacrifices. Now that the temple sacrifices are reinstituted, we're talking about desecration, abomination of desecration, transgression of desecration. What does that mean? That means that these temples, something's going to happen there. But we know from Jesus Christ telling us in the book of Matthew and the book of Mark that be prepared for the transgression of desolation, as talked about in Matthew. That's an end time prophecy. But a lot of people want to take Antiochus Epiphanes and put him as the transgressor of the temple. In about 200 BC, this Antiochus Epiphanes comes in and slaughters a pig on the temple, blood all over the place. He desecrates the Jewish religion. He desecrates everything that these people believe for, causes an uprising. This is the uprising of the Maccabees. They take over, they take back the temple, and they have temple sacrifices again. This is not what they're talking about in the book of Daniel as the final desecration. Gabriel also explains this is the time of the end. This is the end of the Gentile rule. It's the second coming of Christ. This is what he's talking about. And he also talks about something else there. He says about something about 2,300 days. What's this 2,300 days represent? Well, this is a time period in which I believe that the temple is getting rebuilt from the time of Daniel. So he's talking about a lot of stuff happening here, Daniel. And then he goes and gives us a picture of the Antichrist. In verses 23 to 26, he talks about transgressions come to the full. What does that mean? That means that this Antichrist is going to be given the power to have his way with the people in the world. He's going to be a king of fierce countenance, understanding dark sentences. That could only be evil. There's nothing good about that. He's going to have mighty power, but not of his own power. That means that Satan is going to give him power to work, because remember right now, Satan is the ruler of this world. We know that from the book of Ephesians. We're fighting against powers and principalities all the time. He's going to destroy wonderfully, and it's not wonderful. It really means terrible destruction is going to happen. He's going to prosper in practice. I'm not sure what that means, but I think it's a little scary. I think he's prospering on us, and he's practicing evil deeds on us. He's going to destroy the mighty and holy people. To me, that means there's going to be a Holocaust on the Jewish people once again. A Holocaust is going to be more terrible than the first. And he's going to cause craft to prosper. I don't think that's got anything to do with God. I think that's unholy when he talk about craft. And he's mighty in his own heart, which goes back to what was Lucifer. Lucifer was his own fan club. In his heart, he was the best. He wanted to be better than God, and he got himself in trouble. And then in the end, it says he's going to stand up against the prince of princes and get crushed. What does that mean? We found out from the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. He had the statue, and then the stone was cut out from the mountain without hands, and the statue was crushed. Well, that's what's going to happen to this guy over here in the end times. The Armageddon, Christ is going to come back, and he's going to rule and reign on earth. That's what's going to happen. Well, there's a lot going on here in this chapter. It's amazing. We're going to get into now again with more weeks and days and interpretations. There's a great book out there called The Coming Prince by Sir Robert Anderson. It was written like the 1890s, and this guy figured out times and times and times, which we're going to talk about next. Goes about dates and how to number them. And there's just so much going on here. It's amazing. I got to tell you, the only way you're going to get a grip on the book of Daniel is to pick it up and read it for yourself. I hope I've given you a little bit of insight. I hope I've given you a little bit of a taste that you want to go back and read it for yourself. I really do, because that's my goal, is to get everybody to pick up their Bible and read for themselves. Listen to me, but don't listen to me. Read for yourselves. How do you like that, huh? Okay. So once again, my name is George Lucas. I'm the Bible Toolbox Guy. You can reach me at BibleToolboxGuy@gmail.com. Any questions you got, I'm more than happy to answer. I want to say thank you. Have a great day. God bless you.
If you like what you saw, be sure to like and comment on this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.